Welcome back to Heartwood Turning in the Stable Studios. And today's project is going to be a simple bowl turned from a piece of cherry. Now let's get over to the lathe and have a look at the piece of cherry. So here I've got a piece of cherry. This piece of cherry was donated to the channel by William Kenny, who's donated quite a few pieces of wood. But this is the first piece I've turned. It's 9 inches deep, 9 inches across. 2 3/4 inches deep on that side and about 3 inches deep on this side, so it's not quite cut straight, but we'll soon fix that. I'm going to mount a faceplate ring on this side, and then we'll get it mounted on the lathe. So let's mount the faceplate ring. So normally I just kind of eye it through using a small circle in the inside and the center marking point, and I'm going to use four screws. These are riser 25mm 4s. So what we'll do is we'll put one in first, and we'll just get it started, and that'll allow us to make sure that we get a little bit of play in it. So we'll do the opposite one this time. And just fix that one and get it started, and do the same here. Now, I felt that go down a bit, so we've got a little bit of an unlevel surface here, so we'll fix this screw, and we've got a little gap at this side. I don't think you'll be able to see that. There's a little gap at this side, so what we'll do is put just a tiny little wedge in there. I've just got a small piece, and we'll slide it underneath there. Give it a little tap in. That's fine. And then we can screw this screw down, and that means the faceplate will be level. Screw that in. So that's faceplate done. So this little faceplate ring is to suit my SC4 chuck. So we'll pick up our SC4 chuck from its chuck buddy location. Now let's get that mounted on the lathe. So our SC4 chuck fitted to the lathe. Let's get this mounted. Close the jaw somewhat. Good thing about a faceplate ring is it's the right size for your chuck, so you know it's exactly the right size. So let's bring up a tool rest. We'll use a large tool rest today. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch. We want to be cutting on center. So by the time I get the tool rest, get the handle down, that's nearly too low, or too high, sorry, so we'll drop that down just a fraction, and that should be about right. So if we start over here and bring it into the middle, that should be right. Let's get this positioned correctly. Make sure it runs free. Turn the lathe speed down. Face shield on. And we'll do a little pull cut just to try and flatten this off. So we'll stand out the way, turn the lathe on slowly, and then build up the speed. It's got a bit of a wobble. That's at 730. Trying to increase the speed to get past the wobble. There we go. That's 1000 revs. So we'll just take a little pull cut there. Show you that from the other camera. So I'm currently standing with my left foot forward, my right foot slightly back, and all I'm doing is rocking my weight back from the front foot to the back foot. So from my left foot, weight's on the left foot, rock backwards, and transfer the weight to my right foot. And And that should be that nicely faced off. Want it? I'm just going to put that across there at a 45-degree angle if you like. I'll just take it down because this will bring it around as we go. We don't have to make that round initially. So if I just take a bite off of there, I can work my way in to shape the bottom of the bowl as we go. Just stepping it in. We'll stop that and we'll bring the tool rest in a bit closer now. And just continue that until we get to where we want our edge to be. I'll move my tool rest in a little bit more round the corner. There. We'll give this bow gouge a quick sharpen, so we'll nip over to this camera and we'll give this a quick sharpen on the pro edge. Set at 45 degrees because that's what its bevel angle is. And sharpen one wing, and this is the wing I've been using mostly this morning already, so we'll sharpen that wing and then we'll just roll that over the nose all the way back over, and that should be that sharp. It's the pro edge with the diamond belt. Back over to the overhead camera. What I'll do is I'll just define that edge for you now. I'll just put this in here. And I'm just going to define this edge and take this in flat. Give it a little bit of spin, make sure it's okay. Turn the speed on. And we'll just go straight in here. And that's going to be the row in my bowl, I think, because I think we're now flat. So we'll just go in an inch or so. Let's have a quick look at that. So let's go define the row in my bowl. You can see there we've just started to take a piece off here, but we're actually about, nearly just over a quarter of an inch there. And we'll make it a little bit of an OG shape rather than that round pudding bowl shape. So I'll take a little bit more out the outside, but I need to look at this punky bit here. I need to look at that because that's kind of disappearing in there. There's a big hole there. So we'll need to watch that. That's obviously a bit of spalting or something in that. So we'll take a little bit more out of here. Just step that down a little bit there. And bring that round. Move your right hip back again. And so that gives a little bit of almost like a base there. And then just bring that round. And that'll be the shape we want. So just a little cut in there. Get it started. We're pushing the handle away currently. And now we're bringing the handle back in towards ourselves. And we want to just continue that cut all the way to the rim. A bit. We'll try a shear scrape just to try and get rid of that little punky bit. And make as nice a cut as we can there. You can see there's just a tiny little shavings coming off there. Tiny wispy little shavings. Feels a whole lot better. So we'll look at that. Feels better. Still just a tiny little bit there, but that'll sand out now and that's good. That's 24mm. And if I put that on the centre line, just bring this up a little bit. I put that right in the centre and just mark that edge right there. Oops. That's going to be the size of my marks. So I need about a 6mm mortar, about a 4mm mortars for this. So that's about far enough. I could use that tool for the whole job. Or I could go to a beading and pattern tool and just use that. I can close that up a wee bit now. And I'm going to dome this slightly, so I'm not actually making this completely flat. So I'm actually approaching this at a slight angle, but it's just a very slight angle, guys. It's not anything extreme. And just roll that down into the middle, into the edge, and that gives me my mortise size. And the last thing I need to do then is set the dovetail, and I'll use a skew for the dovetail, and I'll just add a little bit in there. And the last thing I want to do in there is I'm just going to give it a little decoration on the inside. So I'll use this little tool, start it in the middle and just run it on out. So that'll just let people think we've thought about that and we're not just leaving it there just for the sake of it. There's a nice little spiral in there which will sand down nicely now. Some little torn bits. I like that little foot as well. So I'm going to start on 120 grit. Bring up the extractor. Switch it on. Turn the speed down to about 700. And I've got that little rolled edge there, if you like. We go to the overhead there for a second. And I'm just going to sand this up to 240, guys. I'll be back with these in a minute. So that's that sanded up to 240. But what I want to do is I'm going to put a little detail in this bottom edge here. I'm just going to use my skew. And I'm going to put a little detail mark in here. So just 3 little highlight lines. That's absolutely perfect. And I'm going to burn them in there. So just use a piece of formica for that. That just adds a little bit of something at the bottom there. And there's a little tiny sharp edge there, so we'll just remove that. If we rub the sandpaper just on that edge, that just gives the bottom of the bowl just a little bit of definition. And I have this pretty well thinned out, so I can use quite a lot of it. It's soaking in rather badly, so this is going to need a couple of coats. So I'll come back to you when it's finished. Just get that sanding sealer right into that little dovetail. That's changed the colour of that piece of wood completely. Let's have a look in there. Should help to stiffen up this little bit of punkiness that's up here. So we'll give that a little bit more. We'll use a little bit of shavings just to de-nib this after the sanding sealer has raised the grain a little bit. So now on to my favourite sanding medium, which is Yorkshire grit. We'll just apply this with a lace stationery and then run it up for about 5 minutes until the Yorkshire grit does its work. That'll take your work from 240 grit on up to about 1000 grit. So we'll start the wreath off at 400 and then you can increase the speed after a few minutes up to about 1000 or so. So if I get a completely clean piece of cloth just to show you. So there. And the cloth is coming off clean now. So we'll just give that a little rub. And we'll stop that now. So there you go, that's the Yorkshire grit has done its work. Next part of the process then is to use Hampshire Sheen High Gloss Wax. Oops, I could get the thing to show you correctly. Hampshire Sheen High Gloss Wax. So this part of the process with the Hampshire Sheen takes a few minutes as well. So just apply a light coat and then buff it back up again. And you can add more coats as required to get the depth of shine you want. And I think that'll do. It's a nice glossy finish in that. So what we'll do now is we'll get this turned round. So that's that reverse mounted. Now we get rid of this faceplate ring. I don't leave it on. I know some people do, but I tend to just get rid of it. Maybe if it was a great big unbalanced piece, I might think about leaving it on. But for this piece, it should be fine. Stick that back up in its storage facility. Screws it back in the drawer. And we'll leave that little wedge piece to the side because we might need it again at some stage. And let's start the hollowing process. Let's get it down to the right height. So we want it so it finishes on the centre there. Let's just get this flat first. go with that. So if you're not happy about starting your cut with a gouge here, in case it skids off and damages your work, start it off with a parting tool. No shame in that, guys. So just take your parting tool in, and all we're going to do is give ourselves a little guide, just a little shoulder, and that'll allow our, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch gouge. You can use whatever size you want. That gives that something, the bevel, something to rest on. So when you go start cutting, you can easily get that bevel to cut there, and then the bevel can cut. So we want to aim upwards, and then come back down towards the middle. That's one method of cutting, so you can cut there, go up in an arc, and come back down to the bottom. My preferred method though is this. I prefer to take bites out of it. So basically, if I can show you this from this, so you can see the work there, and you can see where I'm standing now. So I'm standing at my right foot slightly in front of my left foot. I've got the tool on the tool rest anchored, and all I'm going to do is swing my hips back and forward in that kind of motion. So there, and push that in. And I'm just going to go in steps. So I haven't had to move my feet at all so far. Back out to the edge again. So step round just a little bit. Bring that out. And I'm coming flat across the bottom now, just taking little bits out at a time. And I'm going to leave that little bit of weight in the middle. And now I've got this nice edge, I can finish. So if I come there, and just bring that down to there, try to match the outside curve. And that should give me a nice finished edge. Then I can go back in here again. Now I'm going to go straight across the bottom. I'll just get rid of some of them shavings first. They're kind of getting gathered up there. We're roughing out, so it's great big shavings. So because we're just roughing out, not too worried about the shape of the timber currently. Continue that on down into the middle. Now as I get towards the middle, I'm going more flat across the face. Because I don't want to go too deep. And risk going through the bottom. That last little nub, just work that down into the middle. And again, I can come back to this edge to where I was before, just rubbing my bevel, and then take that down another inch. And at this stage I want to have a look at that and make sure that's good. Because if I need to take another little cut of that with my 3/8 bowl gouge, which I'll just show you, doesn't need it but I'm going to show you anyway, I can take a little finishing cut now with a nice sharp gouge just to bring that down to where I'm going to meet the bottom there. So pick up the cut. Nice, soft, gentle cut. Hardly taking anything, little tiny wispy shavings. making sure that when I get down to the bottom there, when I'm coming up against the meat of the bowl, I don't catch the line, so close the foot. And now we've got all these little wispy shavings now, and we'll have a look and see how that is. And that's absolutely perfect. That'll sand up really nicely now. And now we can continue to get our depth. I've got about 1.5 inches left there. So again, I'll go straight across the bottom this time. We'll take that bit down. So I'm just taking it down the steps. Let's get some of them shavings that are trapped in there out of there. There we go. I'm just going to adjust my tool rest a little bit. Just take it in a little bit towards it. That's a 1/2 inch bow gouge, or 5/8 if you live in America. And I'm taking the full size cutting off of that. That's a full size cutting, just to get rid of the excess that I don't really need. And we'll take that down as well. And I've changed that cut now to a shear cut. And I'm just bringing that across the bottom on out to match where I finished the outside wall. Way down here where I finished the outside wall. Just bring that on out. And what we'll do now is I'll just take my 3/8 bow gouge. I could use a 5/8 actually. I'll use this 5/8 bow gouge, which has got a traditional grind on it. Clean up the bevel. And I'm just going to run that bevel down through the pick up the smallest of cuts, and I should be able to transfer that all the way to the centre now. Keeping the bevel in contact without pressing it too hard, and just run that all the way into the middle. Now, I hope you can see there's a bit of a line here, so I'm going to have a look to see what that caused that. So a little bit more light in there. So I just need to take a little more, one more cut just in there, just to tidy that up. And that's blended that in nicely. And what you could do if you're a bit worried that it's not right, you could use a negative rake scraper if you like, and just do the finest, gentlest little cut. I'm happy with that now. Well, let's have a quick look before we start the sanding process. Push that out the way. And that's a nice shape all the way down. And a tip I'd learned from Glenn Lucas, if you run your finger to the middle and back out again, you don't get the full feel of the bow. So if you run your finger from this edge and go all the way across, and then come back in, you'll feel if there's any. And that feels really nice, I have to say. So let's go and get the drill, and we'll power sand the inside of this for you. So I just used my Ryobi drill and Simon Hope arbors. That's 80 grit, I'm not going to need that today. We'll go to 120 grit. So basically I'm going to do this 120, 180, 240. Switch on the extractor, bring the extractor over, and we'll sand this up. I'll show you just for a second, and then we'll... so I'm going to start down here, somewhere about... Imagine this a clock face, somewhere about around 5, between 4 and 5 o'clock. And I'm just going to run that from the centre out to the edge. Oh, that was good. Let me just get that and put that back in the drill again. Tighten that back up. I'm using this part of the drill, so just here. So as the wood's coming up, the drill is going down. I don't know if you can really see that. I'm trying to go dead slow. So that's going there, and then the wood is coming up to meet it. So in actual fact, we're sanding against the grain, if you like. So the good thing about sanding with a power sander is it doesn't die away in the middle. So you can go right through the middle there and keep a nice even pressure on it and get a nice finish. So I'll bring you back when I've sanded up to 240.
So that's the sanding done. So what we'll do now is we'll just do exactly the same as we did on the outside of the bowl. We'll apply some sanding sealer and burnish it with a bit of shavings. Use the Yorkshire grit, the same as we did. And lastly we'll finish off with some Hampshire Sheen High Gloss again. So it's exactly the same process, didn't want to bore you with it. So we'll just rattle through here at times 12 speed.
So now do we decide what we're going to do with these on this rim? I think what I'll do is I'm just going to put a couple of little lines on it. So I'm just going to put a highlight line on the edge, just there. And I'm just going to do 2 lines this time, I think. One on either edge. See how they are. Looks good to me. So I'll just burn them in. And because it's burnt, it'll kind of self-polish. There we go. So just a little highlighting detail on the rim. So there we have it, guys. One little cherry bowl. How do we finish up size-wise? It is 8 3/4 inches, so we lost about 1/4 inch off it. And it is 2 5/8 deep. So we'll look in the bottom. There's 2 little highlight lines around the outside. And then when we turn it over, we've got a nice shape. I think it's a nice shape, deep, rich colour on that cherry. A little flower or spiral on the bottom, and 3 little lines at the bottom just to finish off that edge nicely. The shape is I quite like the shape. Let me go to the overhead for a second. show you the shape on the overhead. Quite like that shape. There's just the slightest little OG in that. A little bump here, and then it goes in, then goes back out again. Looks lovely to me. So there we go, guys. One little bowl finished. And that's that project done. Thanks very much for watching. I appreciate you all taking the time to watch my videos. And I'll catch you on the next one.